here now. Who's going to stop them at this point? All impetus has gone out of the chase behind, Brian.
Yeah, that was always going to be the case. BMC were riding to close it down. They got within 23-24 seconds, and unfortunately for Avermaet, it did look as if he maybe clipped the back wheel of Kolobnev, because Kolobnev has now had to stop also. You see Roger Kluge just making his way back to the finish. He isn't involved in the race, just move over to the side. But what did we say before? Paolini riding at the back when he could have been riding at the front. BMC have lost their man they were riding for, so what's the point in actually doing any riding whatsoever? You can just see just behind Paolini is Ian Stannard. Ian Stannard's not going to do anything. Lampard not going to do anything. Even Luke Rowe, nothing at all. So nobody is interested in doing any riding whatsoever. And this is the accident when this chase actually finished, when Van Avermaet crashed here. For me, that was the race over for anybody in this chasing group. It's all going to be down to Thomas, Stybar and Sagan for the one here in Harelbeke.
John Degenkolb, the winner of Milan-San Remo week, also delayed in that incident. And the group behind now, almost a minute behind and surely out of contention. Inside 15 kilometres remaining. Luca Paolini, well, plenty of gestures of frustration at the lack of contribution from the riders behind. But, well, as I said, there's absolutely no way Ian Stannard should be asked to chase. He's got his teammate up front, Geraint Thomas, doing an absolutely monster ride. He was on the podium 12 months ago. What can he do about improving his position this afternoon? I think he believes that he's going to have to race clear, and I think that perhaps that accident behind and the fact that the gap has gone up between these three riders and the chasers behind could well offer Geraint Thomas an opportunity, because he might have be able to just take a little bit of a rest here for a little while.
Well, they can't. It's only 51 seconds, but Geraint Thomas has been here last year with Peter Sagan, right? Wilfred Peters came up there and spoke to Stybar. Again, they had, in Nieuwsblad, when they had three riders in front with Stannard, possibly the wrong tactics, or just that Ian Stannard was too strong. Then in Tour of Flanders, you had Kwiatkowski in a group of four. He get well beaten into fourth place when they had two strong riders just behind. So again, what is the tactics here? Hopefully we'll see some attacking in this group of three behind, but another rider has just come up to the front is tanking. Now Giant Shimano are putting their rider up towards the front to help out, but you feel it's a little too late now. Christoph is here, Degenkolb is here. Why did they not commit earlier when the gap was only 30 seconds with BMC? No radios mean nobody knows what to do. It happens somewhat slower. Unfortunately, BMC have lost their top rider, but if any of these teams want to get on the podium, which they can do, they have to commit to the chase. But I think the three strongest riders are in front, and it's going to be a little too late for these riders.
Luca Paolini looks behind himself to see what sort of assistance he's going to get. Now the gap is pretty much a minute. What does Geraint Thomas do? Surely he has to think about attacking, and surely the other riders are going to know all about this. Jurgen Rollins of the Lotto-Soudal squad needs a front wheel. And Rollins, who would have been one of the go-to riders for the Lotto-Soudal squad, safely sent on his way once more. It's going to be a tough ask for him to get back into the group, which is now chasing, courtesy of Kolobnev and Paolini. And Giant Alpecin also have a rider, so they did have a little bit of extra firepower. I think it might have been that rider that was going south on the Tegenbergs, managed to get himself back into contention, as indeed did Ian Stannard. Not that Stannard's thinking about chasing, of course. Now over a minute to those three riders up front. Now surely Geraint Thomas is thinking about attacking. What does Stybar do? Stybar is a good finish on him, but well, neither of the other two would fancy themselves in a 3-up sprint against Peter Sagan.
No, you think that. He won it quite easily last year in a sprint finish. Geraint Thomas hopefully will remember that and knows that he'll have to try and distance Peter Sagan. As you rightly said, Stybar, former world cyclocross champion, winner this year already of Strade Bianche, is a good finisher also. But the three, this has been a hard race for them. The three have been out for, since the old Quaremont. They'll have a good feel about how the other two riders are going. So this race is not over, and Peter Sagan is going to win this. There's still two other strong riders with him, Thomas and Stybar will try and fight him for this win, but fighting at front of the second group, and I think a road to nowhere. They've just left it too late, are Giant Shimano and Lotto Jumbo with Katusha.
Well, just over 10 kilometres remaining now in E3 Harelbeke. 3 riders up front. Peter Sagan is going to start feeling very lonely indeed any minute now, I feel. Surely Stybar and particularly Geraint Thomas have to be thinking about attacks coming very, very soon. The chase is still on behind, but have they left it too late? Surely they're not going to be able to close this gap with 10 kilometres remaining. Having said that, that little dig has sliced a couple of seconds off it, and Katusha also looking to keep pushing all the way to the line as best they know how. So now 53 seconds to the 3 riders up front with 10 kilometres remaining in E3 Harelbeke on the front, just getting out of the saddle as he finishes his turns. Zdeněk Stybar, Peter Sagan rolling through. Very comfortable up front, as indeed is Geraint Thomas of Team Sky. The news will be received by them that they have pretty much a minute. They've lost a little bit of that lately. They're starting to look at each other. I can feel it coming. Surely an attack is going to happen very, very shortly. The run into the finish, a familiar one to these riders.
I may have been doing some riders a wee bit of an injustice. I forgot actually this was a World Tour event, so I just when I noticed there, the riders have got radios in their back pockets there, so they have got radio communication. So take it away from the riders, or put the blame on the sports directors behind. It's even worse, because they've not been telling the riders to move up towards the front. So I have to at this stage apologise to all the riders, because it's not their fault for committing. But again, I'll say for the team directors to put the riders up now, they should have been riding with BMC. These things happen, but you can just see the rider on the radio in the back of Geraint Thomas. But all World Tour events have race radios, all other races do not.
Peter Sagan goes to the front, and his ears must be burning at this moment, because surely there are conversations going on in team cars behind, particularly in Team Sky and Etixx Quickstep. Geraint Thomas rolling through. He kicked this one off and is perhaps the strongest of the 3 in the break. Not that there's much to choose between them. They've worked very well indeed.
The gap is coming down ever so slightly now, Declan, but it's more that the 3 riders in front are starting to finesse a bit. They're not giving 100%. They know they've got a bit of an advantage, and they're just trying to save a little bit of energy for the final few kilometres, but they can't hang about too much now.
They certainly can't, because Luca Paolini is a man with a huge sense of purpose at the moment, and look at the way that group is strung out. And riders will be feeling very, well, they're going to be feeling tired. It's as simple as that. Not everybody's going to have the same strength. Stijn Vandenberg is probably relieved that he's not asked to do a big turn at the moment. Look around. I'm not going to the front. And that big stall could be all that the 3 riders up front need to hear.
And now Christoph is towards the front. Alfredo goes on the attack on the right-hand side. I just don't understand some of the tactics here. Why just take them off the front? It was coming down. It's 40 seconds. 3 strong riders in front, and again the questions have to be asked the sports directors behind. What are they doing? What are they playing? They're just throwing this race away now.
A little more impetus comes into the chase, courtesy of Lotto-Soudal. You see 6th or 7th rider in line is the imposing figure of John Degenkolb. Increasingly frustrated. Johan Alfredo has closed the gap to within 38 seconds now, and there's a little bit of glass cranking going on up front for sure, as Geraint Thomas rolls through, Stybar rolling through too, and Peter Sagan all taking it in turns and using pretty much the same amount of energy, and not quite as much as it was. This a very, very dangerous game of cat and mouse.
It is 38 seconds now, 7.5 kilometres to go, and Three very strong riders in front, starting to finesse, starting to look at each other. But why, oh why, did Katusha just automatically stop riding there? I just don't know, because they have got one of the fastest finishers in this group behind, Christoph. And, these three riders have fully committed, so they were pretty much almost guaranteed if they'd have brought these three riders back at a podium place with Christoph. Okay, John Degenkolb's there, but it would have been close. But are we going to rue seeing a group sprint? These three riders going to stay away? It's in the balance again for pretty much the second time. When BMC came towards the front, nobody wanted to help. They lost Van Avermaet. Then the other teams wanted to ride. Then they've sat up, and there's a bit of disarray in the group behind these three riders. So still ploughing on, but you can see them starting to ease ever so slightly back, starting to think of the last few kilometres.
You're in the Team Sky team car. How do you call it for Geraint Thomas? When?
He has to get rid of... They can't mess about too much now. It's only 38 seconds, so you think that he would have to learn from last year. He cannot ride Stybar and Sagan towards the finish, and in fact... Stybar and Sagan are, I think if Geraint Thomas goes on the attack, I don't think either Stybar or Sagan would want to combine with each other. They'd probably look at each other. So for Geraint to win, he has to surprise them. I think if he really hits them hard with about possibly 3 kilometres to go, that Stybar and Sagan may look at each other.
So when is this attack coming? Surely, very shortly. Katusha absolutely burying themselves to try and get Alexander Kristoff back into contention. The gap, though, has gone back up to 44 seconds with 6 kilometres remaining in E3. Harelbeke, the three riders up front, still working well together. Not quite perhaps the same impetus that they had when they initiated this attack somewhat 30 kilometres ago. A little bit under that, but they've been out there for a long time. And we are expecting any minute now an attack from the man at the back of the group, Geraint Thomas. They're starting to look at each other. They know it's coming. It's not going to be a surprise when it does come, because definitely the impetus has gone out of this group up front. The impetus a little bit more so, I think, from the group behind. Still trying to keep the pressure on as they come to the top of this short little rise. It's Peter Sagan, the fastest finisher of the three riders in this group, that's on the front of the group. Also the reigning champion of Harelbeke. A winner of a stage in Tirreno Adriatico just over a week ago.
And one interesting fact has become with 5 kilometres to go. Both Peter Sagan and Stybar actually won their respective national championships on the same day, in the same race. Sagan actually won, Stybar was second, but they have got combined championships. I just think of Geraint Thomas, who looked super strong in the old Guaramount. He instigated the attack. If he goes on the attack with about 3 kilometres to go, then I think that Sagan and Stybar may look at each other, and it's a great opportunity to get a very big win for Thomas.
Big opportunities coming up for several riders. 41 seconds. The gap is staying steady, and is surely enough at this point if the three riders up front continue to ride at this tempo. Thomas goes to the front, riding through what's going through the mind of the Welshman. E3 Harelbeke would represent a very, very significant addition to his palmares indeed. Stybar surely doesn't want to go to the line either with Sagan.
There's pressure on all three of them. Geraint can maybe relax a bit. He goes in the right hand side, as we said. 4.3 kilometres to go. A big attack now by Geraint Thomas.
Here it comes. We've been waiting for it. Finally it comes, and he's got the gap. Look at that. Geraint Thomas, he has the strength, and he had saved just enough. And it's Stybar that's going to have to close the gap, because Sagan hasn't got it. The reigning champion is surely not going to win E3 Harelbeke now. If Stybar gets across the gap, will these two riders ride it to the line? That remains to be seen, but Stybar is going to have to do something very, very impressive indeed if he's to get to Geraint Thomas. Thomas has raced clear. He's got the gap he required. Sagan has been found out in a big way. He hasn't got the legs, and he'll do well to hang on for third. Meanwhile, Geraint Thomas isn't looking over his shoulder one little bit. If he did, he would see that Zdeněk Stybar has not given up on this one whatsoever. It's a tiny gap between them in real terms, but there is daylight. There's no aerodynamic effect at this point. Stybar desperately trying to grapple his way back onto the wheel of the Welshman. Geraint Thomas pushing for all he's worth with 3.5 kilometres remaining.
was a time trial into the finish, and Geraint Thomas is a very good time trialist on his own. He's been out front for a long period of time. Stybar trying to come up to him, but there's a gap about 5-10 seconds. But Sagan is gone. His legs have gone. So Geraint Thomas learned from last year. He never did this last year, finished third, but it does look as if he's got the strength. Starting to move around Peter Sagan, and it's all in the hands of Geraint Thomas now.
Well, you say Peter Sagan is gone. I tell you what, I think Zdeněk Stybar is gone in terms of getting on terms to take victory in E3 Harelbeke this year, because 10 seconds is the indicated gap between this man and his chaser, the lone chaser, Zdeněk Stybar. I say lone chaser, Sagan is still chasing a few seconds behind, but he's out of it in a big way. It's a match race between these two up front, two of the strongest riders in world cycling, but Geraint Thomas is one of the strongest pursuers in the world, and he has got the bit between his teeth, and he's got the opportunity to take the biggest win of his career. It would be surely at this point for Geraint Thomas' biggest win on the road for sure. 11 seconds, it's only going up, and he's racing towards glory. The man who was third in this race 12 months ago, 28 years of age, now racing with Team Sky with just 2.5 kilometres remaining. Nothing surely is going to stop Thomas now, so he's timed it perfectly.
It was a fantastic attack, and he did look strong. He had to go on the attack. He couldn't bring it down to a sprint. 2 kilometres to go. You think as the gap creeps up to Stybar to 12 seconds now, it does look as if he's got it in the bag. He learned something from last year when he came to the finish with the man sitting in third place at the moment, Peter Sagan. But a brave effort here by Stybar, but he's up against a stronger man.
Looks like another near miss for the Ethics Quick Step squad, because it's another important victory in the Classics for Team Sky. They've got the win in Het Nieuwsblad a few weeks ago, courtesy of Ian Stannard. He is behind, in the group behind, and he'll have the news that Geraint Thomas is racing towards glory. Now just 1,800 metres remaining between himself and a very big win indeed. He's already taken victory this year in the Tour of Algarve, and he has put together some very impressive performances in Paris-Nice, especially second on a stage there, and fifth on general classification. An immense performance in a week-long stage race. And Geraint Thomas now, he turns his attentions to the Classics, turns his attentions to the remaining 1,300 metres. Nothing surely is going to stop him now as he races towards the kite.
Yeah, 1 kilometre to go, 15 seconds. He has got 7 pro wins in his career, twice in Bayern Rundfahrt. But last year when he finished third in this race, and he's going to top the podium this year. Brilliant performance. He instigated it in the old Quaremont, and chapeau to Geraint Thomas.
Well, we wondered if he'd done too much work in initiating this move and really driving it on. He was clearly the strength in the group, albeit they all three were working as a unit. But Stybar and Sagan surely knew that this attack was coming, but there was absolutely nothing they could do about it. Thomas left just a little bit of daylight, so by the time they were aware of it, he was already very much on the pedals. And as he reaches the finishing straight, inside the home straight now for Geraint Thomas, and what a thrill this will be for the young Welshman. 28 years of age, he's been a pro several years now, and has really developed over the last few years to be a vital cog in the Sky's stage race and Classics squad, and who would bet against him taking a monument very shortly indeed. But this is a very big win, because coming up to the finish line, as he has a little look over his shoulder, well, he can be absolutely secure in the knowledge that he is going to take victory this afternoon. It's an imperious performance, a powerhouse performance by the Welshman. He gets his hands in the air and he punches the air, because Geraint Thomas is the winner of E3 Harelbeke for 2015. Zdeněk Stybar will have to be satisfied with another very impressive success for to distance the big threat, Peter Sagan. But here comes the sprint behind, and Sagan has been mopped up as we look to see who's going to make it through for the sprint success. Is it Van Barle on the front for, and coming on the right hand side, or in the middle of the group, is Trentin. Is it Trentin for the Ethics Quick Step squad? And just alongside him, I think pinching that one was Christoph of the Katusha team. No doubt about though who took the win. It was Geraint Thomas of Team Sky. And Peter Sagan cuts a disconsolate figure as he trails in behind the main group. Disappointment for Sagan. Rolled the dice and unfortunately didn't have the legs required. Had he managed to make it home, surely would have had another victory. But it was an impressive defence of his title, albeit ultimately not a successful one. Brian, that is a super win from Geraint Thomas, and he did absolutely everything right. He had the strength and was able to use it correctly.
Sky done everything right today, keeping him out of trouble, keeping him towards the front. Lost quite a lot of their riders. And Geraint, this man here, went on the attack on the old Quaremont and brought it home for his team.
Could hit him a bit earlier. I think it'd take him a bit by surprise. Hopefully get a little gap, and then they got to look at each other, and worked out perfect. Really, it was great. I can't believe it really.
Was it the distance that made you do it? 4K, that used to be your distance as a pursuiter.
Yeah, I just imagined I was trying to hold Ed Clancy's wheel in Team Pursuit, and no, I was just I felt pretty good from the second half of the race really, and just committed, and it was hard out there. The three of us had to really work well together, and we all three of us committed, and it was great. And I wasn't sure if they were bluffing a bit, panting a bit and pulling a face, but fortunately it was great for me.
With this in your backpack, you go to the Tour of Flanders, to Paris-Roubaix?
That would be, these 6 weeks from Paris-Nice to Paris-Roubaix was the big hit for me early season, and Paris-Nice was really disappointing. It was close last week, so to get the win now is really special, and super now. Anything else is a bonus.
Many congratulations. Thanks, Geraint.
Thank you.
Super performance for Geraint Thomas. Well, Geraint Thomas takes a superb performance in E3 Harelbeke and sets up a great classic season for Team Sky. Groups making their way in at the conclusion of 215 kilometres of tough racing action, but there also ran following an imperious performance by Geraint Thomas. He said it was like trying to hold, just imagine he was trying to hold Ed Clancy's wheel in those last 3.5 kilometres. There's confirmation of the result. Geraint Thomas. Mario Trentin leads in the group behind, ahead of Alexander Kristoff. Sepp van Mart, Breschel, Rollins, Bauer, Kukelair and Daniel Oss round out the top 10. It's Thomas that takes the win. And Brian, Team Sky do look in pretty good shape ahead of Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix to come. No sign of Bradley Wiggins, but they look like they're in good shape with Geraint Thomas and Ian Stannard.
That's what it's all about, having strength in numbers, so it does look good for the team, and I'd say well deserved. They've been trying for years, and this man came close in Milan-San Remo last week, and showed his very good performance today. So good luck for Team Sky for the next few races coming up.
Quick reminder, we've got Tour of Catalonia all week on Eurosport. It's stage 6 tomorrow at 3:30 Central European time, 194 kilometres taking the riders to Fuerteventura.